Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Taco Tuesday.
It's raining tacos from out of the sky. Tacos, no need to ask why. Just open your mouth and close your eyes. It's raining tacos. It's raining tacos out in the street. Tacos, all you can eat. Lettuce and shells, cheese and meat. It's raining tacos. Yum, 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 yum. It's like a treat.
Oh, that's right, folks. Taco Tuesday. You have got to love it. Nothing more fun to eat than a taco, which is, I guess some people have tried to classify tacos as sandwiches. I don't know. I don't see it as a sandwich. It's something unique and delicious and scrumdiddlyumptious all on its own. But we definitely here on the Rundown enjoy Taco Tuesday. So we celebrate it Tuesday. For those of you who are ethnically challenged, that means every Tuesday. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate it. We appreciate having you with us here today. Mike, unfortunately, well, Tuesdays is when he does his Civil Air Patrol, working with the Utes. So we will miss him today. We try to get him on. Sometimes he's able to be here, sometimes he's not. But today is one of those where he's not. So it's just going to be us. So I want to encourage you, if you're watching the program live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Rumble, however you are partaking of the program, I want to encourage you. Drop us a line. Tell us what's up. I'm monitoring the comments. I will do my best because, you know, I am both in front of and behind the camera at the same time. I'll do my best to try and make sure that I recognize your comment and share it with the audience. I apologize if I miss one, but promise you I will do my best to make sure that I do that. So go ahead, man. Give us a holler. Let us know what's up. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into the news because, well, as the news never stops coming when it comes to public policy here in these United States, it is crazy. But, you know, before we do that, we got to do what we got to do, and that's pay those bills. And we start by giving a quick shout out to our sponsors. First, we're going to start with Hitman Industries. You can find them online at hitmanindustries.net. The best in rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you today. Whether you are looking to do a brand new home build, or whether you're just looking to rebarrel your current firearm, trust me, they got what you need. Like I said, rifle and pistol. They even got Glock barrels. So go there, check them out today, hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly. Working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Folks, now is a special time because the California legislature just started their end of session, meaning there's a time and there's at least 10 good bills that we need to be working to try and kill here in the state of California. Because trust me, if it becomes law here in California, you can guarantee it's going to come to you. So go to cragop.org. Check out what's going on with the California Republican Assembly today. Then we've got Hog Holsters, the best in concealed carry and tactical holsters. Inside the waistband, outside the waistband, no matter what firearm you have, trust me, they can hook you up with a custom fit holster. Just go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use the discount code The Rundown, just like it is right up there, all caps, no spaces, one word, and you'll get a discount on the hog holster that you purchase today. Then you've got the ultimate in tactical gear. No matter what you're looking for, indoor gear, outdoor gear, cold weather, wet weather, hot weather, which is probably where we're at right now, dealing with hot weather gear. Check them out today. They're veteran-owned and operated. They fast shipping, excellent selection, great prices. Just go to uscombatgear.com. All right, that is then going to bring us to our first story. Kamala Harris has chosen a running mate, and she has gone balls to the walls. From the windows to the walls, to the sweat come off my VP candidate. That's right. She has selected Mr. Tim Walz as her choice for a vice presidential candidate. I got to tell you, this was an interesting one, largely because I don't think no one was really expecting this. I mean, it really had come down to three candidates. One of them was Mark Kelly out of Arizona. And I really believe there were a lot of reasons why he wasn't selected. Number one, Trump is leading pretty solidly there in Arizona. I really do believe that even had they selected Mark Kelly, I don't believe that would have made a difference in their ability to win that state. Then you had Brian or Ben Shapiro, Brian Shapiro, not Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro's a different guy. Mr. Shapiro, who was the governor of Pennsylvania. Now, the interesting thing is, he was the odds-on favorite. Everyone thought that he was going to be the choice. I mean, they did the announcement, the opening rally in Philadelphia, right? In his state. This is a Democrat who, by the way, is a woke prosecutor, was a woke prosecutor, has been a woke prosecutor, but kind of been successful in utilizing moderating tones. And you know how I know he's been successful? Because he's the governor of a swing state, of a very purple state. He's got a 61% approval rating in a state that I wouldn't say is not Republican, not Democrat, but tends to be somewhat libertarian on a lot of things. But he's a very popular governor. I mean, 61% approval rating for any politician at any higher level is pretty big, and that's pretty big. In particular, once again, in a state. By the way, a state that the Harris ticket needs to win, and yet still they chose not to go that way. Instead, they chose to go with Mr. Wokeness. And I'll remind you of exactly who Mr. Walz is. You might recall the riots that took place in Minnesota. Yeah, he was the one who, number one, how should I say this? He was the one who refused to actually send in law enforcement and to actually send them in to stop. He actually had law enforcement pull out of various different, at least one precinct that I recall. But he was the one who basically ignored what was going on there in Minnesota while his cities burned. Check it out.
I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to a lot of people for the peace and the generosity, the kindness and the love that's been shown on our streets of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and across Minnesota over the last several days. And last evening was another example of that. We saw peaceful protests across the city. We saw memorials continue to grow for George Floyd down on 38th in Chicago. We saw beautiful interactions on the state capitol where, out of respect, the National Guard troops there told the protesters, out of respect, they would go back away to the building and just take care of those vehicles that were out front, which of course they did. Not protesters at that point, certainly neighbors and friends and agents of change.
Now, as you can see, the Democrats are literally trying to share and talk about this guy as if, quote unquote, this is the dream team, right? They're calling him and Kamala Harris the dream team. But I think that a lot of folks, in particular people who are very familiar with his record, they don't believe so. In fact, here, this being reported over at Breitbart, which, by the way, you kind of expect this sort of reporting from Breitbart. I'm not going to pretend that they are not biased, but I'm still going to share it anyway. It says the Democrat Party was excited about Vice President Kamala Harris choosing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Democrat, as her running mate on Tuesday, but social media users were disgusted. In social media posts on its Facebook page, the Democrat Party shared photos of the two leftists, and yes, they are both leftists, Harris and Walz, calling them the quote-unquote dream team. And there you can see the image of them together right there. Well, not together. They're just two images of them next to each other. Social media users were quick to voice their thoughts about that label. Nightmares are dreams too, I guess, said one individual commented. Another user seemed to think the pairing of Harris and Walz was ridiculous, said they're shooting their own party in the foot with this one. Ha ha ha. Another user simply described them as a nightmare. And by the way, there are plenty of Democrats, and here's one who would agree with the latter person's sentiment.
The challenge you've got in this party, and people don't want to talk about it, we got to talk about it. On the one hand, you have a lot of young people who are concerned about Gaza. You have a lot of Muslims and Arabs and others. They have not felt seen by the Biden administration. You start hearing that genocide joke. That was building. And so those folks needed to have a candidate that they could feel comfortable with. This helps them in that regard. But you also have anti-Semitism that has gotten marbled into this party. You can be for the Palestinians without being an anti-Jewish bigot, but there are some anti-Jewish bigots out there. And there's some disquiet now, and there has to be. How much of what just happened is caving into some of these darker parts in the party? So that's going to have to get worked out. It's going to have to get talked.
Now, you're asking, well, what does this have to do with anti-Semitism? Well, as I said before, the choice, the smart choice, if you want to win, right? I obviously, for some reason, they seem to think that Kamala Harris is a leftist. She is a Marxist. She has advocated for the Green New Deal and help basically push it through in the name of the Inflation Reduction Act. She believed in and was promoting defunding the police. She pushed a ban on domestic oil production. She has done everything possible. She's promoted the transing of the kids. She has done everything possible to position herself as a leftist, right? And yet she went and she got another leftist. Well, the interesting thing about it is she had a chance at he's still a leftist, but at least he had the appearance of being a moderate. He was someone who was a new, fresh face on the scene. He was someone who has proven to be politically adept and able to handle the media, or at least relatively good at handling the media. And he pretty much had the same position on Israel and Gaza as most people, in particular most Democrats, or at least the way the administration would have you say. There was one difference, though. The one difference is he's Jewish. And he was held to a different standard because he was Jewish. In other words, if he was not anti-Israel, then he was not woke enough for the young voters that the Democratic Party is trying to keep in the fold. Because that's one of the things they're very, very worried about. They're worried that they're going to lose the Gaza vote, the pro-Hamas vote. They can't lose the pro-Hamas vote, so therefore the Democratic Party cannot, Kamala Harris cannot nominate a Jew. And that's the position that she took. She chose to go with a leftist, right? She didn't go with young. She didn't go with young and fresh. She went with old and busted. And even though he's only a few years older than her, you got to admit, dude looks old and busted. And not only is he old and busted, but dude, first of all, he is not going to attract Republicans. You know why he's not going to attract Republicans? Because he believes that you and I, right? He believes that we are a threat to democracy and that we are a danger to these United States.
These guys are just weird. That's who they are. So it isn't much else. Don't give them the power. Look, are they a threat to democracy? Yes. Are they going to take our rights away? Yes. Are they going to put people's lives in danger? Yes. Are they going to endanger the planet by not dealing with climate change? Yes. They're going to do all that. But we're not afraid of weird people. We're a little bit creeped out, but we're not afraid.
And once again, if you need any more bona fides to know that he's a leftist, let's keep in mind, this is a guy who's pushed the idea of withholding information from parents regarding their children if they decide to come out at school, even if all their friends at school know, even if everybody at school knows, including the administrators and the teachers, he's advocated for hiding that from parents. This is the very same guy who has come out and gave illegal driver's licenses to those who are in the country illegally. And we just heard the story just last week about the individual who killed a grandmother driving here in the United States. Because he had a driver's license from California. But once again, he's an illegal immigrant with a driver's license. And then you have the fact that, well, let's just be honest. He's just a flat-out socialist and advocates for socialism. Don't believe me? Here's his own words.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
So there you have it. Let's just be real, folks. This is the most radical leftist ticket. I don't want to say ever, because I don't know what it was like back in the Woodrow Wilson days. Woodrow Wilson was clearly a pseudo-Marxist. These two are two neo-Marxists. So once again, it's probably the most left-wing ticket we've ever seen, and they've pretty much ceded the middle ground. The middle moderate voters, they've pretty much ceded that to Donald Trump. And quite frankly, it's Donald Trump's to lose. And if you don't believe me, think about where we were talking about. We're talking about not someone she's going to lie, by the way. She's going to say, well, Donald Trump wants a national abortion ban. He's already said that it's something that should be decided by the states. He's going to say that he wants to cut Social Security. Donald Trump has already said Social Security shouldn't be touched. He's made it very clear. He pretty much is. On the 60-40 issues, he's with the 60 on almost everything. The economy, on education, on the border, on crime. He's pretty much with the 60. And she's pretty much with the 40, if not the 20. She's a radical leftist, and he is a radical leftist. So this guy is Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden minus, 10, 15 years. So anyway, this is going to be a very interesting race. I got to tell you, as a Republican, as someone who's a supporter of Donald Trump and would rather see Donald Trump win out of the two, I got to say, this was a gift to Republicans. I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know if this just points out how bad she is at this sort of stuff, but I'll take it. Anyway, moving on to our next story. You're going to love this one. And this is what, by the way, is an example of the sort of work that the Biden-Harris administration has been guilty of. And quite frankly, the sort of thing you can expect from a Harris-Walz administration. Nearly 100 terrorists, people on the terrorist watch list, were released into the United States by the Harris administration, by the Biden-Harris administration. This being reported by the Washington Free Beacon. Nearly 100 illegal immigrants on terror watch list were released into U.S. under Biden-Harris's watch. The Department of Homeland Security released nearly 100 illegal aliens. So these aren't people that we know came in and kind of guessed somehow through other stuff. These are people who we had in custody and were released into the United States. Anyway, going back again, the Department of Homeland Security released nearly 100 illegal immigrants on the terrorist watch list into the United States under the Biden-Harris administration, according to a congressional report released on Monday. Quote, under the Biden-Harris administration, DHS has released into American communities at least 99 illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list, with at least 34 others on in DHS custody, but not yet removed from the United States. The House Judiciary Committee wrote in its Monday report noting that that Border Patrol encountered more than 250 such immigrants at the southern border between fiscal year 2021 and 23. The report came just days after the House passed a resolution in a 220 to 196 vote, with 6 Democrats in favor of condemning Vice President Kamala Harris, the presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, for her failure as the border czar to secure the U.S. southern border. More than 7.8 million migrants have crossed the border illegally under the Biden-Harris administration. Democratic officials and pundits have recently tried to downplay Harris's role in the border crosses, even though there had been a consensus in Democratic circles Harris was in charge of the border after Biden appointed her in March of 2021 to investigate the, quote, root causes of illegal immigration. So, and by the way, for those of you who do not know, there was a resolution, and I'm mad at myself for not for not getting it and having it available for you. But there was a resolution where they had discussed the border, where they did, in fact, refer to Kamala Harris as the border czar. And this was, by the way, when Congress was controlled by Democrats. In any case, let me just say this. All the statistics, and here's the thing. The funny part is they want to say that, well, people who are here commit crimes too. In fact, people who've come across the southern border into the country illegally, they commit crimes at a lesser rate than citizens who are here. Number one, there is absolutely no data that supports that. 100%. I have not seen one single quote of data that supports that. Number two, when you look at the numbers that were there, they said 7.8. 7.8 if I gave them that number, those are the ones that we know about. Those are the verifiables. Those are the ones who came across. It doesn't include the known gotaways, and it definitely doesn't include the unknown gotaways that have come into the country illegally. And I'm willing to bet you this. There are probably a greater percentage of people who've committed crimes or who are a danger to this nation that are on the unknown or that are on the unknown list, right? The unknown people, right? The unknown gotaways than on the known gotaways. But that's neither here nor there. But here's one stat that is completely 100% undeniable. 100%, let me say this again, 100% of the crimes, we're talking rapes, we're talking murders, we're talking armed robbery, we're talking beatings, 100% of the crimes committed by those who entered this country illegally would not have happened if we had a secure border. Because guess what? They wouldn't be here. And that, my friends, is just a fact. That is an undeniable fact. And the fact that Harris and the fact that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have overseen the greatest, there's no other way to call it. I don't know. 10 million people have crossed our southern border, have entered into our country. We don't know. We have no real idea who they are. From all over the world. This is not a Mexican thing. So for those of you out there, he's racist against Mexicans. No, this is not a Mexican thing. They're coming from all over the world. Here in California, it's something like at least 50,000 Chinese in the last year. So no, it's not a Mexican thing. We have no idea who they are. They're just coming into the country. That didn't happen under Trump. Heck, that didn't even happen under Obama. And yet it's happening now. And yet we're dealing with it now. While Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are in office. Now, I will guarantee you this, and I feel comfortable guaranteeing you this. When Donald Trump is elected president, when he is inaugurated in, I will right here, I will tell you right now, you're going to see those numbers go down, and you're going to see them go down significantly. So everyone's saying, well, nobody could do anything. Well, guess what? The numbers were higher under Biden. Under Obama. The numbers were higher under Obama. They went down significantly under Trump. I got a feeling all he's got to do is do what he does so well. Because, once again, going back to the whole discussion of the issue, let us not forget, on day one, was something like 92 executive orders that affected the border were signed by Joe Biden that undid Trump policies. Now, the one thing that I will say is this, and this is where it's important that you show up to vote. Even if you are in a non-swing state, all right? Even if you're in a state where it's already a given, you need to send Republicans to Congress. You need to send Republicans to the Senate. Because here's the thing. These things that need to be done, we need to, as much as possible, codify them in law. They need to be passed through the legislative branch, and they need to be signed by the president so that no one can just do executive orders and undo what they're supposed to be doing. Now, in some of these cases, like, where the president just decided we're just not going to enforce the law, those, in my opinion, are impeachable offenses. I don't know that he will be impeached. I don't know that they'll consider impeachment, but that's definitely something that needs to be considered. Anyway, to the degree that we can, we need to do our best to make sure that these folks are dealt with, right? That this is dealt with. Anyway, that's just, once again, just one man's perspective. But yeah, just so you know, if something jumps off, and here's the thing, and here's what gets me. If something jumps off during Trump's next administration, you know they're going to blame Donald Trump. You know they're going to blame him. Even though we've seen, like I said, 10 million people come into the country illegally. And I'll just throw this out there to you. If 1% of them, if 1% of the 10 million people have decided that they're going to come into this country and do us harm, you know, it's 100,000 people. Think about that. That's 100,000 people that are in this country that could seek to do us harm, that could want to do us harm. I'm not saying that's how many there are. I'm saying, but if just 1%, which is a very, very small percentage, it don't take that many when you got that many people in the country who aren't supposed to be here, or you don't know who they are. I'm just saying. Not saying, just saying. All right, that brings us to, a positive story. And once again, Bruin is delivering once again in ways in which, well, we would have predicted. And by the way, just let me say this. I'll say it once again. We have Donald Trump to thank for this, because these are the sorts of decisions that happen when you have people who actually believe in the Constitution interpreting our laws. This is a report from Maryland Matters. It says, judge says state cannot ban gun owners from carrying in bars or near demonstrations. But ruling upholds the state right to prohibit carry in schools, parks, government buildings, and other places. And when they say other places, they're really meaning this term sensitive places. I have a feeling that further up the line, that may be ruled out, or they may address that, because, parks, really, government buildings, depend on the government building. Schools, it's going to be a little bit harder to overturn something like that. But anyway, let me read a little bit from the story right here. It says, the state cannot keep gun owners from carrying their weapons in bars within 1,000 feet of public demonstrations or on private property without the owner's permission, a federal judge has ruled. But the U.S. District Judge George Russell III, in an opinion handed down Friday, upheld much of the rest of the Gun Safety Act of 2023 that had been challenged as unconstitutional by gun rights groups. In a 3-page order, Russell sided with the state's claims that it can bar gun owners from carrying in amusement parks, casinos, state parks and forests, museums, schools, stadiums, and government buildings, among a range of other sites. The order accompanied a 14-page opinion that basically confirmed Russell's findings in September, when he temporarily blocked enforcement of the bar, protest, and private property restrictions in the law. The ruling was on a complaint filed in 2023 by Susan Warner Kipke, the wife of Delegate Delegate Nicholas Kepke, a Republican, and a Maryland state and the Maryland State Rifle and Pistol Association, challenging the law on First, Second, and 14th Amendment grounds. A separate but similar challenge was filed by Catherine Novotny and a gun rights advocacy group that it belongs to. Maryland shall issue, along with Second Amendment Foundation. Russell combined these complaints. So, I didn't get into who exactly appointed this justice, and I'll probably look into it a little bit more, and I'll let you know if the person did turn out to be. First of all, I'm going to guess that this is not a Trump appointee, because if it had been a Trump appointee, chances are they would have struck it all down. Just saying. Let's put it this way. They would have pointed out that he was a Trump appointee. That's how I know he wasn't a Trump appointee, because they would have pointed that out early in the article. They would have called him a right-wing extremist, but they didn't. In fact, I'm looking here and I'm just kind of perusing it, and it doesn't say It doesn't say who he was appointed by. Matter of fact, let's do a Command F and let's do appoint. Nope. They sure don't even. They didn't even say who he was appointed by, which tells you he was probably appointed by a Democrat. And I'm sure that I could probably look him up real quick. In fact, you know what? Why don't I do that? Why don't I just do a quick Google search and let's see if he comes up. Search Google district judge born judge degree from Morehouse College, which means he is likely African American. And if he's African American, I'm willing to bet you. Oh, no, bam, Barack Obama. There you go. So that's the reason why some of these things stood up, why it didn't go quite as far as it could, because this is an Obama appointee. But even Obama appointee said, yeah, no, you can't call every place a sensitive place. Okay, parks and schools, children are there. Government buildings, well, there's probably, state capitol, government officials, yada, yada, yada. Even if, it may be a government building where there's not really a sensitive place. Maybe there's just, state workers there. So anyway, so a lot of, once again, I think eventually even more of that is going to wind up getting thrown out. But that just goes to show you how good a job those three appointments that Trump did, how good a job they are doing for us in defending our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. That's why, like I said, with all due respect to folks who are like, well, Donald Trump wasn't pro-Second Amendment enough. And by the way, let me tell you, I'm right there with you. I don't believe he was. I believe he said too many things and did some things that were not consistent with our right to keep and bear arms. But like with any politician, I weigh the good against the bad, right? I weigh the pluses and the minuses. And, the appointment of justices, not just at the Supreme Court, but at the appellate court level and at the district court level, that believe in our fundamental right to keep and bear arms and are supporting our fundamental right to keep and bear arms, I got to tell you, it outweighs a lot of the negative. And I think you can honestly look at yourself, even if you don't like the man, and but you're pro-gun, you got to admit there's some there. Sorry, but you do. Anyway, moving on to this last one, and this isn't necessarily breaking news, but, it was funny. About a week or so ago, I decided to do a Google search. And it was prompted to do it because I wanted to look into a rally, because Donald Trump was doing a rally. And the thing was, he was doing a rally at the very same place where he had been shot. Not the same place, in the same state where he had been shot, right? You would think that something like that would be big news, right? So I decided to do a Google search, and you think, put in basic search thing, Trump rally. And this is what I came up with. This is what Google gave me, right? So I do a Google search, and I put in Trump rally, and I get Kamala Harris rally in Atlanta. Wait, CNN, July 31st, 2024, presidential campaign news with a picture of Kamala. Then I have Washington Post, hundreds Harris for president, golf carts roll through Trump stronghold. Election Live updates. Wait a minute, hold on. Now, what gets me is that when you take some time and you do some Google searches, right? I'll do this one right here. I'll just type in Donald Trump. Right? I'll type in Donald Trump, right? And I'll look at the news. When I go to look at the news, okay, well today there does appear to be some positive results. When I say positive, I mean this is him talking. What I found it tends to be the case is that when Donald Trump is, and I didn't do it in the right thingy. Let's put it over here. There we go. So you look here, when there's stuff that they're like, oh, this is going to turn him against folks, right? It's hard to find Google searches that are pro Donald Trump. But when you do searches on Harris, like, first of all, I said Donald Trump. Why am I getting news about Kamala Harris? Why is Kamala Harris's name popping up when I'm doing a Google search for Donald Trump, right? And by the way, this is not the only time. In fact, there was this video that I came across that also kind of inspired me to have this conversation. Check out the video.
It's not just the media, it's big tech, too. Here we go again.
If you actually go on screen grab from Google searches, when you put in assassination attempt of TR ... usually they kind of come up with some prompts. It's not even, President Trump doesn't even come up.
I did it 3 or 4 different times on laptops, computers, a mobile phone. Same thing.
If you hit in Trump, it comes up Truman. It comes up Reagan assassination.
And usually those auto-populated searches go by how common the question is. And I can guarantee you more people are looking up assassination attempt on Trump than Truman today.
Right. And it's not just Google. Facebook censored the iconic photo of bloody Trump with his fist up. They called it a doctored image.
Meta's AI assistant is reportedly claiming the assassination attempt on former President Trump was, quote, fictional. Meta AI replied there was no real assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
This is still happening after the laptop, after the COVID censorship. This is still happening right before an election.
So that was a piece that was put together by Trump Vance. And the reason why they want to point this out is this. There's an organization out there, and I'm mad at myself because I thought I had the website up, and I do not appear to have the website up. But there is evidence out there that big tech has been putting their finger on the scale when it comes to elections. It's obvious, and it's very, very plain and clear. There are numerous reports during the well, first of all, you can go back, first of all, to the 2016 election when you could not find, if you went and you tried to Google Hillary Clinton and you tried to look up the email scandal, you literally could not find it. It was not coming up in Google searches. Or when you did find it, it was like 4 and 5 pages deep. Right? There are instances during the 2020 campaign where people were trying to find out how to donate to Trump, and it was removed. It wasn't even there. We also know about big tech basically hiding any story relating to the we know about big tech removing any story relating to the Hunter Biden laptop, which, by the way, we already know as close as 2020 was, that would have made a difference in that election. And yet you had big tech hiding it, literally hiding the ball. Steven Crowder has a great piece. If you get a chance, go watch his show, today's show on Rumble. Where he talks about Google and all of the donations, any donation that they have given, that Google has given, over $100,000, all went to Democrats. It all went to Democrat PACs. It went to Democrat electeds, Democrat presidential, senatorial, and congressional candidates. I want you to think about this. Think about every single time you do a search, if your opponent's results are pushed down, and your results are pushed up. Your results come to the top. If you go to search and you can't find a single positive story about your opponent, how much, whatever your industry is, right? How much in free advertising do you think that would be worth to you, right? If you own a car dealership and your opponent's, your competition's car dealership never came up in any searches, even when you were searching their name, your name came up. What value would that bring to you? That's what we're dealing with right now in big tech. They're on their website, and I'm mad because I don't have the chance to look at it. I'm going to do a full piece on it eventually. But folks, you need to know, these folks this is election interference. No doubt, it is election interference. They control the digital public square, and they are tipping the scales in the favor of their selected candidates. And it's got to be addressed. It has got to be addressed when we take a hold of the White House, when we take a hold of Congress. Google, Facebook, Bing, all of these folks, this stuff needs to be addressed. They need to be handled. Because it's a miracle that a Republican can get elected in these United States. It's a miracle that a presidential candidate like Donald Trump even has a shot. Because they realize, I'll tell you how Donald Trump won. First of all, he won in 2016 because through Twitter, he spoke directly to the people. And so they realized after 2020 election, we got to shut him up. We can't allow him to have a voice directly to the people. There's a reason why they're going after. There's a reason why they shut down our YouTube channel. There's a reason they shut it down. It was the rundown. The reason why they shut it down, because they couldn't have people talking directly to the people. And it's funny how they kind of do it right around election time. But anyway, all that having been said, folks, we are in perilous times, and you've got to, let me just say something. If you're looking for information, make sure you dig deep. Be willing to look past the first few pages of a Google search, because all they can do is suppress it. They can't keep it completely out, or they haven't kept it completely out, but they have done the best that they can to try and keep you from being able to see it. So step up, be there, be a part of the fight. Anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Anyway, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Make sure you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, so we talked a little bit about Tim Walz. Tim Walz being the selection for the vice presidential candidate. And, he's made a pretty big commitment. He's decided that he is going to make America as great as Minneapolis. And for those of you who are just listening to the program, I got a picture here. This is from, by the way, the Babylon Bee. Fake news that you can count on. Tim Walz, once again, standing next to a picture of, the riots that were taking place there in Minnesota. Anyway, you know all those. Anyway, then you've got Josh Shapiro, who was, once again, he was probably the leading candidate, the folks that everyone thought they would choose, probably the smart choice. He was so close to being selected that he even kind of, as Michael Rappaport would have said, de-Jewed himself, basically stepped back from his support of Israel in order to kind of appease the woke pro-Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, but to no avail. As Babylon Bee reports, Josh Shapiro, annoyed he got this, quote, death to Israel neck tattoo for nothing. Yeah, that's kind of how that works. What a dummy. Anyway, and then finally, we've got the candidate. This is a funny commercial from Kia. And this is talking about the candidate who, let's just say didn't actually get any votes. But this is what the Democratic Party is trying to sell us these days.
Introducing the all-new Kia Kamala, the first car to go from zero to nominee in 0 votes.
I really love Venn diagrams. The circles, right? 3 usually.
The Kamala is affordable because it's made with cheap foreign labor that came here illegally.
And said we're not paying them nearly enough.
And while it looks small on the outside, the interior is as roomy as a big yellow school bus.
Who doesn't love a yellow school bus, right?
And best of all, the state-of-the-art GPS will take you everywhere, except the southern border.
This whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
The Kia Kamala. Critics agree it's not a smart car.
Oh, good stuff, good stuff. Well, folks, hey, appreciate you tuning in. That's going to bring us to the end of our program. But before we go, one more quick shout out for our sponsors. You got Hitman Industries, the best in rifle and pistol caliber barrels. Get your Hitman Industries, get your rifle pistol barrels today at hitmanindustries.net. You've got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. You'll find them at cragop.org. Get your hog holster at hogholsters.com. Make sure you use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your hog holster today on discount. And then finally, the place where you can get all things tactical except the gun, uscombatgear.com. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to have a good time. Mike will be back with us. We'll be talking, obviously, politics. We'll probably have a nice little mashup of even some more interesting stuff from Mr. Walz and stuff from their rally today. Anyway, we'll have a good time talking politics, talking Second Amendment, talking conservative values. But till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and if you get a chance, make sure to send a few downrange. We will holler at you mañana.